Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'm going to be combining two of my favorite things. So judging by my channel title, you know that I like books and I like tea. So I was like, how do I create a video that combines both? And then in my really creative, thinking, I was able to like, you know what, I'm gonna find like descriptions of different teas and then try to find a book that matches that. So I have a selection of teas here with their basically how they're described. I'm taking the description from David's Tea, so I'll link it down below if you're curious to learn more about it. But David's Tea is my favorite like tea place, so you better go. They're like a Canadian company, so if you're curious, go and check them out. They're super good. But basically how this video is going to be structured, I'm going to have the tea type, the description, and then the book counterparts. So without further ado, let's get started. Before I forget, I will also have the tea that is my favorite that's part of this like tea type also down below if you're curious as well. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first tea is herbal tea, which is classified as sweet, floral, and fruity. And for this one, I ended up picking Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen, and I feel like this one fits it perfectly. I tried to find something that is, at least like floral related, and I feel like this one kind of fits it perfectly. So it basically follows, it's like a magical realism contemporary novel, but it follows this family of women where they're kind of rumored to be like witches, and so one of them has like a special garden where there's like special things grow and you can like make special potions, or an apple, if you bite into it, you kind of see your future. So I felt like this one kind of fits it perfectly. I feel like it's also like a sweet story as well, with these sisters who had a falling out, but many years later they try to reconcile and all that. It's cute. This one's a duology. It's just like a fun quick summary read, so if you're looking for something maybe next summer, this one might be good for you. But I felt like this one was like perfectly and captures herbal tea in every way. Next we have green tea, which is classified as being healthy, energizing, flavorful, and most popular. So for this one, I went with the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I think these are just, fun. They're just kind of like energizing, I guess is what you could call it, but they're just exciting and fun to read. And they're also very popular as well. Even though they're written towards a more YA audience, it's kind of fun to read. I think where Marissa Meyer shines is not only in the retellings of these stories, but also in the dialogue with the characters and their banter. I think that's like my favorite part. So I feel like I said, it's energizing, it's fun, it takes you on an adventure, and I thought this one was a good kind of description of it. I'm sure you guys all know about the Lunar Chronicles, so I don't have to talk too much about them. Next we have black tea, which is rich, energizing, and full-bodied. So for this one, I wanted something that kind of gets your heart pumping, is like intense, and I have The Eighth Sister by Robert Dugoni. This is the first book in the Charles Jenkins series, and it follows a former CIA operative who has retired, but he is approached by his old boss at the CIA to investigate someone who's known as the Eighth Sister, and this is someone who is in Russia giving information on the Seven Sisters, who are women that are spying on Russia for the United States, and those women, as their identities get revealed, they're slowly getting killed off by the Russian government, and so he has to go there and figure out what's going on. But this one was just like such an energizing read. Like, it really gets your heart pumping. It's a perfect game of it's perfectly written, like a cat and mouse experience, and just like the chase, and you get both perspectives as they're like one person's trying to flee the country, and it's just super suspenseful. I'm not really one to read I'm not one to watch spy thriller like movies, but this one is a little bit stepping outside my comfort zone, but it is just a lot of fun, and I feel like this one totally gets like the adrenaline pumping. Next we have white tea, which is classified as being light and sweet. So for this one, I have Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham, and basically this is her memoir, basically from everything from Gilmore Girls to Gilmore Girls in a Year in a Life, and it was just fun. Like, this one is really a quick read. Like, I remember, I think I read this within one day. Like, it is relatively quick, it's fun, it just kind of, you can get her personality and her sense of humor in her writing, and it also reads like she talks and writes very fast, if that makes sense. Like, it's a very fast kind of narration style, which is a lot of fun. And it's, if you're a fan of Gilmore Girls and you like Lauren Graham, I think you will like this. It's just, like I said, it's just a nice read, and also the audiobook of this is really fun as well. It's basically just having Lorelai read it to you, basically. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it's just lighthearted, and I feel like it totally embodies a white tea. So next we have Matcha Tea, which is grassy, sweet, and creamy. And so for this one, I was trying to think, like, do I have a book that takes place like on a farm, or like is food related? And lo and behold, I hit two birds with one stone with this one. I'm very proud with this one, and it is The Baker's Secret by Stephen P. Kiernan. And I feel like I haven't talked about this book in a while. I read this a couple summers ago, and it takes place in a small town in Normandy during the Nazi occupation in France, and it follows this young girl who lives on a farm. Got that one like grassy part of the description, but she is kind of forced to bake bread, where I get kind of the food aspect of this, like the creamy sweet like baking side, so where she's forced to bake for the Nazis. And so she finds a way to kind of scan the system and minimize the resources for the Nazis, where she can cook some like other things on the side for the people in the town, and like uses that to trade on the black market for the people of the neighborhood. And so I get both points here, which I was very proud about. But yeah, this one's a nice, fun historical fiction read. Like I said, I read this a while ago, and I haven't talked about it in a while since I read it. I kind of forgot about it, but it's just a very interesting kind of real perspective of life during the Nazi occupation, and we really get to see this character grow up. Like, she's like a young teenager when this happens, and then she really is kind of forced to grow up in her world. So I think this one is very interesting, it's very deep, and it's just very captivating as well, and the ending is just really intense. So next we have Rooibos, which is naturally sweet, and it has a deliciously clean mineral finish. So for this one, I was like, I don't know really how is a book deliciously mineral, like has a deliciously clean mineral finish, but I was like, I'm kind of skewing this one, and it is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. And I feel like this one kind of has, like, first of all, it's sweet because I really like how it focuses on the kind of pseudo mother daughter relationship that these two characters form, but also the ending of this, where we kind of get revenge with the characters, is also kind of, you know, perfection. Like, it's a good finish, I think. So basically the premise of this story, it kind of has a kind of triple kind of storyline. So we follow Charlie, who is kind of on a boat to London with her mom to kind of get rid of her problem, which is her pregnancy that they're trying to get rid of after World War II. So when she arrives from the ship into London, she kind of runs away, and she wants to know what happened to her cousin Rose, who disappeared during World War II. So she's curious to see what is going on, and she ends up crossing paths with a woman named Eve, who is very kind of a very interesting character, and it kind of goes off from there. But like I said, I really love how the relationship between Eve and Charlie like kind of flourishes. And I forgot to mention, but we also get Eve's perspective of World War I, when she was spying on Germany during that time, and her time kind of being a spy, and how it's kind of a dual storyline between, you know, what they're investigating in Charlie's cousin's past, and then Eve's storyline as well. This is probably like a book that I read at the perfect time for me. I read this right after my grandmother passed away, and it was just a good way to kind of escape my reality. And so yeah, this one I feel like does a really good job at just kind of having that sweet relationship with Eve and Charlie, and just that ending was amazing as well. Next we have Oolong, whose only definition was traditional, and I was like, traditional as in classic. So for me, I was like, oh, a classic murder mystery kind of series, and that is the Rosoli Isles series by Tess Gerritsen. I started reading this series in high school and I fell in love with it, and I would like finish the book on Friday, and my mom would pick me up from school and we'd walk into town and we'd go to the bookstore and I'd get the next one in the series. So this series is near and dear to my heart, but it's also one of those like classic crime, like murder mysteries that started in the 90s, and I think it just finished a couple years ago, so there's quite a lot of books out in this one. But basically the premise of this series, it follows Detective Jane Rosoli and the medical examiner Mara Isles as they kind of solve crimes in Boston, and they're a lot of fun. They're super suspenseful. What I really love about Tess Gerritsen is that she was a physician, so a lot of her medical terminology is done really well in here, but it's done in a way that people who may not have that background can understand. She does a really good job at kind of explaining it. So these ones are super suspenseful. I know eventually I want to go back and reread this series because, like I said, it's really near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I feel like this is just a classic in so many ways. So next we have a puree, which boosts metabolism and aids digestion. So I was like, how can a book do that, essentially? So I went for something that is a little bit graphic for this one, because you know, digestion, all that stuff. So something like, I was just like graphic. So I went with Pretty Girls by Kiernan. This is a book that I read this time last year, and it is very, very graphic towards the end. But basically it follows two sisters who 20 years ago their older sister disappeared and was never found again, and after that their family fell apart and the sisters had a falling out. But when recent events kind of take place, the sisters are kind of forced to kind of work together, and when they kind of leaves them down the path of what happened to their sister and how she disappeared. So this one, like I said, is very graphic. So some people, for this, like, is too graphic, they have a certain bodily response, so that's why I was like, it can aid digestion if you're a little queasy with these things, but that's how I try to work this one into it. But yeah, this one is just super suspenseful. Like I said, beware, it's very graphic in every sense of the word, but it is very intense. It's a lot of fun. I always love the thrillers and just like trying to piece everything together, and this one was a lot of fun. I definitely want to pick up more Kiernan books in the future, so if you have any suggestions from this author, if there's any other upper books that you think I would like, let me know. Next up we have Matcha Tea, which is long lasting and provides a jitter-free boost. For this one I was like, a book hangover, because you know, those books leave like a long lasting impression on you. And for this one I picked The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I read this when it first came out, and I remember I was waiting for one of my classes and I finished it and I literally was crying in the hallway before my class. But yeah, I read this kind of before the hype came around for this author, because I've read many of her books before this, but this one just has that lasting impression on you, and definitely one that I want to reread soon because it had that impact on me. So the premise of the story is that it follows two sisters during the Nazi occupation in France during World War II, and it basically shows each like sister's story and kind of highlights the women's experience in, you know, war. And I feel like this book really kind of kick-started a lot of the women storylines in historical fiction novels. I feel like this one was kind of really the poster child for this, but this book is really unique. I think it really makes that lasting impact because you can feel for both the sisters and like what they're going through, and just kind of having to live and just survive in that environment is just crazy. This one really sparked my love for historical fiction, and it's just amazing. Like, all the hype for this is well deserved, and it lives up to the hype even more so, I think. But yeah, it's just one you just need to experience and just immerse yourself in, and just try to picture yourself in this kind of like trying to survive in this environment. It's just really bone chilling, and it's haunting, and it kind of sticks with you for a long time. And lastly, we have chai, which is classified as being spicy, detoxifying, and purifying. So for this one, I was like, spicy in terms of like romance, like how do I classify this? But I feel like chai, I think, is very popular in the fall time, so I wanted to do a book that had like a autumnal feel to it, and it is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I know I have 2 Kristen Hanna books back to back, but I apologize. But I feel like, doesn't this like look fall to you? Like, if I don't really like chai teas, but this one is like a good one to read, right? I don't know. But basically the premise of this story, it follows this girl who's growing up in the 70s, and her dad came back from the Vietnam War, and he comes back very different. He kind of has PTSD. They don't address it because that wasn't very like common, I guess, but in today's kind of like in your modern thinking, you know, it's PTSD. But essentially he picks up his family and he moves them all to Alaska, and he thinks this is where their life is gonna kind of change, they're gonna be happier and all these things going on. But that doesn't necessarily happen. This book deals with a lot of dark, kind of toxic, very hard subject matter, such as domestic violence and all that stuff, so trigger warnings for that. But I feel like in terms of the story and the journey of the main character in here, and how she kind of overcomes all the trauma that she experienced and just kind of learning to live her life, I think is kind of fits in with the detoxifying aspect of chai tea, because she kind of has to let go of her past, all the toxic things that she experienced, and kind of put her past behind her. And this book is also very haunting in terms of just the scenery as well. Like, it's very atmospheric and it's just totally immersive. I think like this makes me really, I don't think I'd ever want to do a cruise, but I would be willing to do an Alaskan cruise, and this one really wants me to, really kind of like sparked my interest in going to Alaska. My uncle's a vet and he does all the dog sled races up in Alaska, and I think that's so cool. So I'm like, I've seen his pictures and I could just like, her description of it is just total, like it's very vivid of the imagery that I saw in those pictures as well. So this book I think is very unique, very special, and she has a new book coming out I think in February, which I'm super excited about. So yes. But yeah, Kristen Hanna is just amazing. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a different video. I feel like I had to stretch some of the things and just give it a different type of spin. But let me know if you like this video. I was trying to be like more creative, and I don't know, I'm very, like I said, I'm a very engineer type person, so sometimes creativity doesn't come to me easily, but I tried my best. But let me know if you guys like this, or if you have any tea suggestions, let me know down below. I'm always up for trying new teas. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.